However, Jews themselves in this country are joining the protests and organizing protests and educational campaigns of their own. Hell, today, even a small handful of elected officials are speaking up and saying that not everything Israel does in the name of self-defense is in fact appropriate and proper self-defense. Today, the world is smaller and smaller. What the politicians and their lackeys in the news media used to be able to get away with so easily and with total impunity, they cannot get away with as easily today. Furthermore, it is becoming clearer and clearer that Israel itself cannot be sustained if the people in government of that country continue on the same path they have been on for decades now. In this regard, history is replete with examples of other would-be empires and colonial nations trying to forever impose their will on the peoples of other lands. Germany, Italy, Rome, Spain, England, the US itself are examples of empires and colonial powers whose time of empire either ran out or are running out. Like South Africa's time ran out. No oppressor can forever suppress and oppress another people. Just look at what the Palestinian people have been through over these past 60 years. How many times have their towns and homes and schools and hospitals been destroyed by Israeli tanks? How many times have bombs fallen on their heads like falling rain? How many times has the world looked the other way while Israel subjected the people of Palestine to yet more torments? And yet, the Palestinians will not die. What is the matter with those people? Wonder aloud some of the Israeli generals. Look, they say, we were right, they really are not human. Well, what the Israeli generals don't understand, and what the politicians in this country don't yet fully understand, and what even those Arab countries who have done too little to help don't understand is this: Palestine simply will not die. The Palestinian people simply will not die. And those who, like myself and countless more like me all across this land and around this globe, who support the just cause of the Palestinian people, will not rest and will not give up and will not stop speaking out and will not stop marching until Palestine is free. We speak out and march and sail our little boats to Gaza and send our aid to Palestine in the certain knowledge that history itself is on our side, that Palestine's day will surely come, and that one day Palestine truly will be free. Thank you. And now I await your comments, questions, thoughts. How do we build a movement? What do you think? What does this week mean here on this campus? Who's got some thoughts about that? Yes?
What ways do you think we can engage those that are picketing around here at your
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. The question was, in what ways might we be able to engage those who were picketing around here during my remarks? You know, I think unless one understands what the world's greatest genocide has meant to a rather permanent culture of Jewish people, understandably so, and Israel, understandably so, one cannot hope to ever engage it. Because what I mean by that is, that experience was understandably so scarring, so deep, as this 60-year experience now with Palestine is becoming, that there are, frankly, some folks that you can't engage. You can try, but my experience has been that no matter what I say to those folks, I cannot get past that historic hurt, that historic fear, that cultural mindset that won't allow of any other discussion. But what I find is, and that's why I mentioned in my remarks about Jewish people, Jewish Voices for Peace, Women in Black, anti-Jews against Zionism. Any number of groups are now out there organizing, talking in their synagogues, talking to their neighbors, at great cost to themselves, always being called self-hating Jews, of course. So those are folks that you can engage, and together you can engage others. That's why I said, whereas 3 years ago you couldn't get a dozen people in the street, today you can get thousands of people in the streets while Gaza was growing. We had a demonstration at the Answer organization and the Muslim students and others organized it, where we had, thank you, where we had, by the police's own estimate, over 8,000 people in the streets. We could never have done that a few years back. Yes? Any demands on? The question was, what's the final, what's the vision for a solution, and what suggestions might I offer to the Palestinian people? So, you notice I said during the speech that I always feel very funny trying to suggest to oppressed people what the solution ought to be. As I look at it from the luxury of afar and not being part of it, I suggested that the notion of pressing for a two-state solution seemed to be very unjust to the Palestinian people, although I'm aware that great members, perhaps even the majority of the people living in Palestine today, prefer that. So be it. What I suggest to them is, because that's really what you're looking for, is, let me back up and see if I can answer the question straight. I truly believe that if before Palestine was, the occupied territories were so balkanized with fences and settlements and walls, had a different political philosophy and strategy been followed, had tens of thousands of Palestinians simply sat down at checkpoints in a peaceful, non-violent way, I honestly believe that the situation today might be very, very different than it is. Unfortunately, as a consequence of perhaps bad leadership, as a consequence of the balkanization that I speak of and the Jewish settlements that I speak of, it's very difficult today for the Palestinian people to organize themselves. I mean, it's physically very difficult for them to get together in a massive way. Oh, they can within their own ghetto, but that's about it. But I would still encourage masses of peaceful protests on the part of that people. And I don't say this to denigrate those who take up arms to defend themselves after 60 years of oppressive occupation. But that would be my message, that a more useful and fruitful strategy might be to try to do that. Well, it will only happen when the people on both sides understand that they have more to gain, really, by living in peace. I fully believe that the Israelis, or the Israeli government at this point, finds it advantageous to their own narrow interests, those who run the country, to keep the two sides divided. I think they find that very useful. I think one would hope that just as in Northern Ireland and some other places, the people themselves would finally come to understand that what their leaders are doing is not in their benefit, that they can't persist like this forever, that surely there must come a time where they're going to have to sit down, one state, two state, whatever it is, and make genuine peace based on a just allocation of land and resources and what have you. But other thoughts, questions? We have to wrap up. I'm told we have to wrap up. One last question. If not, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to be here. I wish you well. I stand with you in your cause.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you. Next, Ryan Fakhr, a fellow student, is going to share with us some words.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I greet everyone with the Islamic greeting of peace. May the peace and blessings of the one God be upon us all.